Welcome to the Sewing Whisperer. This video shows various techniques to unpick plain machining and overlocking or serging seams safely without damaging the fabric. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Over my 30+ year career in the rag trade, I've taught hundreds of students how to sew, and I look forward to helping you on your sewing journey. Unpicking is the curse of any sewer, but it's just part of the process. It's not just for mistakes, it's also needed for fitting adjustments or design experiments and tweaks. As a teacher, I found it's never as bad unpicking someone else's work as it is unpicking your own. If you need to unpick and you have the time, I recommend walking away for a bit, taking a deep breath, putting some relaxing music on and settling down to the task at hand. If it's a small amount of unpicking, just do it as quickly as possible. Some fabrics can be difficult to unpick because the stitching has embedded itself into the fabric and the thread colour is such a good match, it's hard to see. Delicate fabrics need a gentle hand to ensure the fabric isn't damaged. You do need to consider the techniques you're going to use. Note that throughout these tutorials I've used clippers and not a quick unpick or seam ripper. I always have my clippers on a ribbon around my neck and they're there for ready use. I find them to be much sharper on the tip for unpicking and are my preferred tool. How to unpick plain machining. This method pulls one main thread and works best on soft fabrics and is great because you have minimal threads to remove. Firstly, clip the back tacking stitch, which might take a couple of clips, and ensure you don't pick up any fibres from the fabric. Remove the back tack from both ends. On one end, unpick enough of the top thread to be able to hang on to it. Gently pull the top thread out and remove it. If you're unpicking a long seam, you may need to work in sections. The back tack threads may need some extra clipping to remove. Always take the time to remove all the threads and press the fabric before continuing. The next method snips every 4 to 5 stitches, and this is my preferred method because I feel I'm achieving progress for minimal effort. It works best on most fabrics, but not super delicate fabrics. If the thread is a perfect match and the fabric has texture, you may not be able to see the thread or dig in to clip the thread because it's too embedded in the fabric. Unpick the back tack stitches. Continue to clip every 4 to 5 stitches along the work. Once you've finished clipping, turn the work over and lift the thread from the other side. The work will completely unravel. You only need to remove the original clip threads and the under thread will be in one continuous piece. Ensure you remove all threads and press before continuing. The next method pulls the fabric apart. This is the most common method that most people use if they haven't been made aware of the other methods. It's my least preferred method because it takes the longest and it creates the most amount of threads to clean up at the end. However, there are times when this is the only method that works. Particularly very delicate fabrics and fabrics that have texture and the sewing has embedded itself into the fabric. Unpick the back tack stitches and continue to clip away a couple of stitches so you can separate the layers. Keep pulling the fabric apart and clip about 2 stitches at a time. Repeat until you reach the end and remove all threads and pressing before continuing. The last method has you holding the fabric with your knee. This technique is more for canvas, denim or calico toiles, trial garments. It can be a bit rough on the fabric, but it's very quick. I had a past student find employment with a suit hire company and they used this technique with a razor blade. Eek! I strongly suggest you stick with clippers. Set yourself up at a position where you can press your knee against something to create pressure. In my case, I've pulled out the sewing machine drawer, crossed my legs so I can apply pressure to the bottom of the drawer. To begin, unpick the back tack stitch and a couple more stitches so you can separate the seam. Place one edge under the drawer and press your knee against the drawer to hold the fabric in place. Just snip the threads and keep pulling apart. You'll need to reposition the work under your knee from time to time. Repeat to the end. Remove all threads and give the seams a press before continuing. How to unpick overlocking. Before unpicking overlocking, you need to be able to identify the right from the wrong side of the overlocking. Here we're looking at a 2-needle 4-thread overlock stitch. The red thread is the top looper and is the right side of the overlocking. The green thread is the bottom looper and is the wrong side of the overlocking. If you have matching threads, sometimes it can be quite difficult to identify the right from the wrong side. If you look at the bottom thread on the wrong side, you will see it's just a single thread sitting along the bottom edge, whereas the bottom edge of the right side, you can see a downward loop and then an upward loop and a downward loop and an upward loop. The downward loop is part of the top looper. You don't want to unpick this because if you pull a loop, it will snag and make the unpicking quite difficult. You want to unpick the upward loop because this is the left-hand needle thread. You can see there is also another blue thread along here, which is the right-hand needle thread. This can be unpicked before or after the left-hand needle thread. It doesn't matter which order you do this in. If you have your machine set up with 1 needle and 3 threads, you won't have the blue thread and won't need to remove that thread. Hopefully that's clarified how to identify the right from the wrong side of the overlocking. This method pulls the threads out. Note that I'm working with a knit spandex fabric. Not all fabrics will be able to be unpicked this way, particularly fluffy fabrics where the thread catches in the fibres. It's my preferred method because there are minimal threads to clean up when you've finished. Identify the top side of the overlocking. Locate the left needle thread and pull it up until you have enough thread to hang on to. Pull the thread to remove it. On longer seams, you may need to work on about 20 centimeters or 8-inch sections. Once completed, remove the right-hand needle thread in the same manner. The looper threads will just unravel. Remove all threads and press the seam before continuing. The second method cuts off the top loops. This method shaves the top of the seam and creates lots of threads to remove. This works best when the previous methods won't work, which is generally fluffy fabrics where the thread catches on the fibres. Identify the right side of the overlocking. Carefully cut the top loops off the overlocking all the way along the seam. Check that all the threads have been cut. Pull the needle thread until you have enough thread to hang on to. Lay the fabric down and pull the needle thread. It will just unravel. Then pull out the right-hand needle thread. It will easily unravel as well. Separate the 2 pieces of fabric. The top looper threads will shake off, but the bottom looper threads will need to be removed. Remove all threads and press before continuing. 3-thread overlocking. This is the same technique used for the 4-thread overlock, which pulls the needle threads out, and I'm working with a woven fabric. Not all fabrics will be able to be unpicked this way, particularly heavier weight woven fabrics. It's my preferred method because there are minimal threads to clean up when finished. Identify the top side of the overlocking, locate the needle thread and pull it up until you have enough thread to hang on to. Pull the thread to remove it. On longer seams, you may need to work on about 20 centimeters or 8-inch sections. Once completed, the looper threads will just unravel. Remove all threads and press the seam before continuing. This is the same technique used for the 4-thread overlock stitch and shaves the top of the seam and creates lots of threads to remove. This works on pretty much all fabrics. Identify the right side of the overlocking. Carefully cut the loops off the overlocking all the way along the seam. Check that all threads have been cut. There's a section 1/3 of the way along from the right-hand end that I've missed. Pull the needle thread until you have enough thread to hang on to. Lay the fabric down and pull the thread and it will just unravel. You can see it pulls slightly where I missed trimming a couple of loops. Separate the 2 pieces of fabric. The top looper threads will shake off, but the bottom looper threads will need to be removed. Remove all threads and press before continuing. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss my next tutorial that covers everything you need to know about overlockers.